Once the container for your lesson is made, now we can go in and create the actual content of the lesson. So to edit the container, you would click on the gear, and that would bring you back into the basic settings of the lesson. We've just seen these: the appearance, availability, prerequisites, flow control, grade, and common module settings. I'll just cancel out of this for a second. But to actually go in and build the lesson, you would click on the title of the lesson itself. You'll see when you enter the lesson that you've got a couple of choices here to begin with. And this is, you want to be on the Edit tab. There's a Preview tab, but there's nothing left to there's nothing to preview at this point. Also reports and to grade essays, but these are not relevant at this point. So we're going to start by adding a content page. And this is a regular Moodle page. Now I could give it a title. And I could write a bit of content in here. Okay, so I've jumped ahead and I've created some content. This is how to start your Moodle. You want to plan your lesson carefully, determine what content you will include, determine how you will organize it across different pages, and make a little sketch of that so we can see which pages you'll include. Okay, there are several options that come with this page. One is to display the content buttons horizontally. If you uncheck this, they'll be displayed vertically, and we'll look at what that is in just a second. And also display this in the left menu as a page. Remember, there are other settings on the container itself that may affect when this is displayed. In other words, a student might have to meet certain requirements before the link to this page is displayed. Now, your content is there, and what you're going to do now is determine the navigation from this page. You can add up to 4 different buttons to bring you to other areas of the site. Now, as of now, this is the first page, so we're really going to be limited in our options, and we're simply going to put a single button on there. So we'll go into Content 1. Maybe I'll say something like Next. And then I have to determine where this is going to jump to or to link to. So in here, I'm just going to pick Next Page. Now that page isn't created yet, but when I do create it, it'll be all linked up to go out to that next page. This box is asking what format you want to use, and it's usually best just to leave it at Moodle Auto format, so that's an easy one. And now I'm going to save the page. Okay, you can see the page has been created. There's the title right there. And here are some controls for the page. I could delete it. I can go back into it here to do editing, etc. And it jumps to the next page. So we can see that's all been set. Now my menu looks a little different than when I first entered this screen. Now the options for creating new items are contained inside this drop-down menu. So I'm going to pick Question next because I'd like to do a check for understanding with my students. They've read a little bit of information, so I'm going to click Question. And I have several choices. It could be an essay, a matching, a multiple choice, numerical, short answer, or true and false. I'm going to jump down to multiple choice for this one and then click Add a Question page. Now the options that appear on this page will vary slightly depending on which type of question you pick, but again, they're fairly similar to what existed in the quiz module, not exact, and not too hard to figure out. So here we go. I'm going to call this page checkpoint 1. And I'm just going to put a question down in the question box here. Okay, I typed in my response, and again you have your basic HTML tools here. So if you wanted to do any formatting, such as making something bold or changing font color or something, that would be easy to do. Okay, because of the type of question I chose, I get certain parameters. One is this option for multiple answer. That's in the case where I've given them more than one choice of a correct answer. I would check that box. But if you look up here, what I'm saying here is which is not something you would wish to prepare for in a Moodle lesson, I'm going to make this a single correct answer. So 3 of these things are going to be things that you would do to prepare for a lesson, and the 4th will be something that you would. Okay, so I stopped the video while I prepared those questions. You can see that the first answer says determine what content you would wish to include, and that is something you would do. So in this case it's an incorrect answer because I've asked for what you would not do. Notice there's also a response box, and this is how I give feedback. It's going to show them what their answer is, and then I'm going to say this is incorrect because determining what content to include is something you would do for the lesson. Also, I'm going to have to now decide what they get for this, how many points, and I'm going to say 0 points because this is an incorrect answer. And I am going to jump to the previous page. Or I could also choose, you'll notice now it's also adding in pages I've already created. So I could just say go back to the introduction to the Moodle lesson. That happens to be the previous page, but maybe it's safer just to pick the actual page name. Number 2 is the same type of circumstance. I'm giving them a choice that is something that they should do, so therefore this is not the correct answer. I'm going to send them back again to the introduction and give them no points. The third choice is to include all content on a single page. Well, this is the correct answer because this is something that is not necessary when you're creating a lesson. So I tell them it's correct, and I explain why it's correct, and I'm going to send them to the next page if they're correct, and I'm going to give them a point. Now, in your point scoring, you can decide that one question is worth more than another. I could have given 3 points for this, and it will all average it out at the end. But the important thing is to award points for a correct answer and to not award points for an incorrect answer. So you can see my last answer is also incorrect, 0 points, and I can save this page. At this point, let's look up at the top, and you can see that there are 4 tabs. The one we've been working on is Edit, but there's also a Preview, Reports, and Grade Essays. Now, reports and grade essays are really not going to be too useful to us until after people have actually taken this lesson and completed it, but the preview is very useful to us now. So I'm going to click Preview, and it's going to jump me right over to the beginning of my lesson. This is what it's going to look like. Introduction to Moodle, and then here's the page I created, how to get started, plan your lesson, determine what content you'll need. Okay, great. So I click the next button. It brings me to that second page I created, and here is my quiz question. And I can pick an incorrect answer, and when I submit that, it shows me the question up here, it shows me my answer right here, and then underneath it gives the explanation that this is incorrect and why it's incorrect. This would actually be a little nicer, I think, if it was if they distinguished a little better between the actual answer and the feedback below, but it's there. When I click Continue this time, it brings me right back to the first page so that I can review my answers. I can click Next. And now I've figured out that trying to include all the content on one page would be the best answer at this point. Now notice that this order may change, and that's good. So instead of the person just memorizing which order, question order they've picked and changing it, they're going to have to pay attention because these will be randomly shuffled. This time when I submit, it brings me out and tells me that it's correct. Okay, when I click Continue, I'll go to a new page. However, I don't have another new page yet. So let's go back and look at how to do that. I'll go back to Edit. But before I do, let me look at the jumps column over here, and you can see that this particular page, the second page, the first answer, second answer are going to send me back to review, but something must be wrong here because the third answer is the correct one, and the fourth answer basically is staying on that page. So I must have made a mistake in there. I can re-enter it through the gear. Go down to that fourth answer, which is collapsed at the moment. Just double check the third answer. That's the correct one. And the fourth answer. And it looks like I neglected to send that one back to do the review. And come on, there it is. Okay, great. Save the page, and that should have corrected that problem. Now I'd like to look at some of the options for creating in here that you might have questions about. There's one called add a cluster and add an end of cluster. We're not going to take the time to go through those, but basically what it does is by creating a cluster and then an end, you can put pages in between, and it's basically a section. It's basically like a section of this lesson that you could jump to at any time. So it's a way of partitioning things off. Okay, also add an end of branch. That's going to be just what it sounds like. It's going to be something, if you go down a path, it's going to be the last thing in that path. Now, as an alternate to adding a new page, we're going to look at how we can use the question itself to combine both content and question. So here we go. I'm going to click question, and let's make this one an essay. Say add a question. And I'm going to add in here title for my question, which would be Mechanics of Lesson Creation. Probably should be capital there. Okay, and then please read this web page for more. Okay, so I'll put a little bit of text on the page, but in this box I can actually create a hyperlink as well. So we simply, here's my link to this page I'd like to send them to, and I can copy that, come back to my lesson, highlight that, and just establish the link here. So we're just going to paste the link in there. If I would like it to open in a new window, I can do that here. And that's about it. Of course, the last thing that I should do is give the actual question that they need to answer, considering this is an essay question. So I'll come below here and say, please give a brief summary Okay, let's take a look. Now we're going to leave that set to next page. I actually think this is an essay question, so I'm going to make this 5 times more important than the other questions by giving it a score of 5, and I will say save. Now we've looked at this preview tab before, but if I just want to jump right to this question to preview it, I can use the little magnifying glass over here on the right, and you can see that it's giving me my text. Here's my link. If I click it, that site opens in the new window, and then it gives me my question and a box to answer it in. I think you can see how this text or information up here would have benefited from some additional formatting. You know, perhaps I could have put a little title down here, bolded it to distinguish the actual question from the content and the link. But laying that out in a nice way is going to be important to help your users figure out what's going on. Let me come back up to the edit here. We'll take a look at one last option before we close out this lesson. And I will create a new page for that. I'm going to make it a question page. I tend to like this question page because I don't see a real reason that we have to separate the content and the question. This one I'll make a true and false to make it easy. I'll add a question. I've jumped ahead. I've added my content and my responses. But I'd like to replace this X with a video I found on YouTube. So flip to YouTube, find the share link underneath, click the embed tab, and copy the code. Next, switch back to your Moodle, go to the HTML view, find that little placeholder that I put in there and paste the code, click Update. Save the page and you're done.